In the part 5 of the implant files, we are investigating two faulty implants produced and manufactured by the Johnson & Johnson. These implants are metal-on-metal implants which are implanted on the hip. The first one is the ASR and the second is the Pinnacle. The ASR has already been in the news in India because a health ministry committee has found that the implant was to be faulty and over 4,700 patients in India have been affected. The second implant, however, the Pinnacle, which was also used in India, has not come under the radar under the Indian government. However, hundreds of patients who continue to suffer have not been compensated. Both ASR and Pinnacle were introduced in 2003. These models or the technology is called the metal on metal. Metal on metal is where both the hip joint and the ball and the socket joint is covered by metal ions. Both the ASR and Pinnacle entered the Indian markets without any clinical trials. This doesn't mean that it didn't have license. It did have a US FDA approval. But this US FDA approval was a flawed process. That means that ASR came on a predicate device called the Pinnacle and Pinnacle came on a predicate device called the Ultimate. However, in both the case of Pinnacle and ASR, US FDA never asked for the company to conduct any clinical trials. The two aspects we need to understand from Pinnacle and ASR is that ASR was actually withdrawn from the market. The aspect is that they can be compensated, all the patients are compensated, and in case of a revision surgery, which is a second surgery, Johnson & Johnson pays for the faulty hip implant. In case of Pinnacle, neither the patients have been compensated nor the company is paying for revision surgeries. The Pinnacle model has been commercially withdrawn from the market and the ASR product has been recalled. The Indian Express has traced several Pinnacle patients across the country. One of the patients is Mamta Thukral from Delhi, who stays in Rajouri Garden. Her case is one of the rare cases where on one hip is an ASR and the second hip is a Pinnacle. She has tested both the hips in the UK laboratory, and clearly there is a debris on the Pinnacle implant which is showing high levels of cobalt and chromium ions. She has undergone a cataract surgery, there's skin pigmentation, there is a permanent swelling on both her hips. So these are the few very serious adverse reactions because of Pinnacle. There is clear medical evidence in these cases, but even as we speak, Johnson & Johnson has told the Indian Express that it has not received a single adverse event related to Pinnacle.